What's up, everyone? Another week. We're back at it again. NASCAR around the track with the riders, featuring myself, SterlingRider, and my dad, Duke Rider.
What's
And
up?
we're going to go over Phoenix. But first, we're going to backtrack to Vegas on penalties.
Yeah, the 17 car, Chris Buescher, we kind of saw it coming. We talked about it a little bit last week. Their front tire changer and their jackman was suspended for 2 weeks. They did appeal that penalty, so they had those crew members at Phoenix. Then they withdrew the penalty this morning. According to Bob Pockrass, he had talked to Brad Keselowski about that, and the reason that they did that was so that they would have those crew members this last weekend, so that the replacement crew members would get an opportunity to work with the team before they had to go and do live pit stops at Bristol. So um, that's all taken care of. Um, so that was pretty much the only penalty that came out of Vegas. So I it took 27 laps for that tire to fall off.
Yeah.
I and I don't know if he did. I don't remember if he pitted under that first caution. If he did, that could be where that loose tire came from. If he didn't, how did that tire last for 27 laps?
Oh, am I having.
Um,
Oh, there we go.
no, I think you're good. Did something fail that caused that to happen? I don't know, but either which way, taken care of now. What about the big news from last week that we didn't get to cover? It was just starting to come out last weekend. With Dale Jr. is not going to return to NBC. He's going to go over to TNT and Amazon starting in 2025. What do you think about that?
Um, well, it, I would say it sucks, but at the same time, it doesn't. Junior is really, really good in the booth with NBC. So it's definitely going to be strange to see how the broadcast booth is this year when we go to NBC. But I'm sure next season, because I know NASCAR is supposed to have a deal going on with Amazon, so hopefully we'll having him there will still be a good bonus. So
Well, it's a big loss for NBC. I don't know. I don't know the specifics of that. None of that has come out, but it's a big loss for NBC. Be interesting to see if maybe Steve Letart's contract is up this year, after this year, and if he goes with Dale Jr. to TNT and Amazon because they have great chemistry together. They had great chemistry on the racetrack when Steve was Dale Jr.'s crew chief. So it's going to be interesting to see how this works out. I'm not sure who. I think Chad Knaus may be up for the running to be the crew chief for the TNT Amazon group of races. That would be interesting to have him do that. He has done a couple of, I believe, Xfinity races before with Fox, and he's often appears on NASCAR Race Hub on FS1. So, and man, I don't know about you, but I am praying that Alan Bestwick gets the call to be play-by-play for that series of races. I wasn't Alan's biggest fan back when he was with TNT before, but I missed him, and then watching him call these SRX races over the past couple of years has kind of let me see him in a little bit different light, and I would love to see him back in a booth calling NASCAR Cup races.
yeah, I would agree. He's done a good job with SRX for sure. So
And we're gonna miss SRX this year, man, with them
Yeah.
canceling the season. So, uh, but anyway, I guess on to no truck race, so we don't have to talk about a disaster.
Yeah.
Uh, Somehow, if you go back to the championship race, Phoenix last fall with the trucks, it was a truck race. It was a disaster. So we missed out on the spring disaster, which is probably a good thing.
Yeah.
So on to the Xfinity race. What do you think about that race overall?
It was a solid race. Excuse me, I keep yawning. Don't worry, I'm drinking my Dubby. It was a solid race. There were a few times it was just kind of going around in a circle. Phoenix is one of those hard to kind of pass if you don't have the horsepower, as we've talked before. But overall, it was still a pretty solid race. So cautions.
Well, Phoenix,
Go ahead.
yeah, Phoenix Xfinity is always better than Phoenix Cup.
Right.
Um, Really, almost any weekend that you go and you watch the races, the Xfinity race is usually the best race of the weekend when it comes to actual racing on the racetrack. There's some strategy in the Xfinity races, but they're so short that everybody's out there to get all that they can get as quick as they can get it. So they're a little bit more exciting. They push the envelope a little bit more. Um, but you mentioned cautions. I
Yep.
don't know what's going on this year, but we can't get 10 laps into a race. I don't care whether it's a truck race, Xfinity race, Cup race. We can't get 10 laps in before somebody is spinning out and wrecking.
Yep.
And in this incident, we had the 11, the 4, the 51, and the 07. And man, could there be anybody luckier than Josh Williams to get a break, get a big break with Colleague Racing, and then start the year out with 3 wrecks in the first 4 races, with the best finish being 11th at Atlanta.
Yeah. I feel really bad because uh, I believe Josh has more than enough talent to go do something, but at the same time you got to stay out of the other people wrecking so you can. But sometimes you can't. There's not much you can do depending how the wreck is. But I'm sure. I know he's probably down, but I'm sure he'll bounce back here in the next 4 or 5 races. So
Well, the big thing is he's got to qualify better. If
yeah,
he can qualify better, qualify more towards the top 10, top 15, he'll keep himself out of a lot of those positions. But man, it I don't think this can last all year long. I mean, can that luck really last all year long? It's got to turn around, don't you think?
for a racing team that he's with colleague, I'm sure it'll turn around.
I
So
hope so, because this is a big break for Josh. I mean, he's getting an opportunity to show his talent in quality equipment and winning equipment. That car has won races.
right.
So I really, really, really hope that works out for him. So let's see here. What else do we have go on? Let's see. There was the stage one conclusion. Um, you see how these races go. There was stage one, and Chandler Smith won stage one. Uh, so then they got going back, and stage one, stage two is the next caution. The end of stage two. So, which Cole Custer and the Double Zero uh, won that one. Cole's pretty much picking up where he left off last year. He won the championship at Phoenix last year. Looking really good so far this year.
Yeah.
Um, and you got to think the Xfinity Series program for Stewart Haas Racing over the past few years has been uh, the bright spot for that team. Of course, now Harvick did get a couple wins in 2022, but last year all four teams pretty much had dismal years, but both Xfinity teams won races, and then Cole Custer pulled off the championship. So they continue, though. Both of those cars continue to do really well this year. Both of them, both of them got stage points. Both of them sitting here looking at the lineups for the stage points. They were a little jumbled up, a little bit different each stage, but pretty much the same drivers in both stages
Yep.
getting stage points. So um, non-par Xfinity race. There's not a whole lot of cautions. We had that one incident on lap 6, and then the next two cautions are for stage breaks. So um, that's non-Xfinity, but it's also kind of Phoenix type racing. Typical Phoenix. There's not a whole lot of cautions in either series at Phoenix. And I think the truck race is the only one that has the crazy cautions. So um, let's see. The next caution was at lap 136. The number 15 was involved. Haley Deegan. This is the caution that changed the race. I don't know what you saw. I didn't see the need for a caution to fly. I didn't
No,
see
it
any
didn't
debris
seem
on the
like it.
track. I didn't see any tire smoke. She brushed the wall. It was no big deal.
Yeah. I don't I don't know why they pulled that caution. It made no sense. But it definitely made the race take a turn. Um, but it's I don't know. I don't get why they called it for a little wall scrape. We see wall scrapes all the time in all three leagues, and not all the time do they call a caution. So it made no
And
sense.
no, there was a bunch of wall scrapes in the cup race yesterday. If they would have called the caution for every time somebody scraped the wall yesterday, we'd still be watching the race.
Probably.
I mean, so that was kind of an unnecessary caution, but that caution led to the big one. Um, they actually caused a red flag. That was just that was crazy. I think it was Couch Racer on Twitter put out the video and said whose fault was that, and my answer was NASCAR because they threw the caution before. Had they not thrown the caution for Haley Deegan, we wouldn't have had this mayhem that took out contenders.
Yeah.
Took out the 31 car, the 15 car, the 27 car, the 20 car, the 20 car, and the 98 car were both contenders. The 21 car was a potential contender. Um, the one car, the 44 car, um, the 17 and the 43. I mean, there was a lot of cars involved in this accident, and somebody else you got to feel bad for is poor Sam Mayer. He's another one who just has had rotten racing luck this year. I mean, again, he's got talent. He showed he can win races. Showed he's a playoff capable driver. But 2024 has not started out very well for Sam Mayer either.
No, no, it hasn't. I've he's another one of those drivers that is already he's already proved himself, but he's off to a rocky start this season as well. Mm, internet issues, of course.
You're cutting in and out.
Well, good thing you're not the one recording.
Yep, yep. So anyway, um, they got that restarted, and looked like Justin Allgaier was going to drive away with this thing. And then he blows the tire, it spins out, hits the wall. Very, very frustrated with that. He said after the race that he thinks he ran over something. Took him out of contention. Feel bad for Justin. Justin's another one of those guys that you can't help but like. Carries himself very well. Um, and tough break.
Yeah,
That's racing.
that is true. That is racing, but very tough for Justin because he's a very well known Xfinity driver. Um, Definitely proven himself behind the wheel and looked like he was going to do it again as he was driving away from the field until his tire went down and he spun and hit the wall, taking him out. So
And that was just crazy. But that pretty much handed the lead to Chandler Smith. He took off on that restart. Um, they was at one time like four wide behind him for second. That was a lot of fun to watch. I've never been a fan of the dog leg that they call it there at Phoenix being on the front stretch. I always like the start finish line over what's on the back stretch now.
yeah,
Um, I don't I'm not a big fan of that, but that it does make for some interesting restarts, some fun restarts to watch. But Jesse Love finishes second. Not a big surprise there. Uh, Sheldon Creed, Austin Hill, Custer are your top five. Finishing sixth is Shane Van Gisbergen with another good finish. I think and I kind of mentioned this on somebody's Twitter. I can't remember who mentioned it. I think it might have been Jeff Gluck, but don't quote me on that. I think he went into the 11 trailer and stalled Josh Williams's Lucky Rabbit or something, because he's not he is he's running decent, but he's always there at the end of these things.
yeah.
So I think maybe he took Josh's. Josh may need to go search the 97 hauler, see if he can find that rabbit's foot or penny or whatever it is that SVG stole out of his truck.
Well, that may be the case, but we also know that he's very good behind the wheel. He won the Chicago Street Race Course last year, his first race ever. He's done really well here at Xfinity, and of course he has a background of racing from where he, back at home from where he's from. So it's not as surprising to me because he's definitely already shown that he has good potential. So it's just kind of right now just playing the waiting game to see when he's going to get that first win for his Xfinity.
Well, we may not have to wait, uh, but another couple of weeks because we got Coda coming up, and if I remember correctly, I believe he has driven a car, not a Xfinity or not a NASCAR series car, but I believe he has driven a car at Coda before. So I could be wrong, but he does know that track. I do remember him talking about that. So Brandon Jones, Parker Kligerman with a good run, Sammy Smith, and Anthony Alfredo with a good run in 10th for the top 10. Leland Honeyman, they ran their little three-quarter screen driver profile on him. It's good to see him finishing top 10, top 15. Ryan Sieg had another good run. Uh, BJ McLeod is up there, and Jeremy Clements in the top 15. So not no big surprises there. The big surprises actually come out of who are not in the top 15. AJ Allmendinger in 18th. Uh, William Byron, of course, William Byron was caught up in that melee,
Yep.
finishing 23rd. Riley Herbst he was somebody else that was caught up in that, finishing 24th. So we talked about Josh Williams and Justin Allgaier. Eric Amarola was caught up in that crash too. John Hunter Nemechek, Haley Deegan, Sam Mayer. We've covered all them. So uh, to me, it was a Phoenix Xfinity race. It wasn't the best race we'll see all year. On the same token, may not have been the worst race we saw all year either, because we did see a lot of passing. Of course, the Xfinity cars seem to be able to pass better than the Cup cars at Phoenix.
Yep.
So anyway, you got any more thoughts on that, or wasn't a whole
No,
much to talk about?
not really. I've like we've already discussed, felt bad for Justin when his tire went down as he was driving away. Um, Props to Chandler Smith though, coming back and winning the race after being caught up in the incident that pulled out the red flag, and then of course Jesse Love. We've talked very highly of him, and he continues to prove himself. So excited to see what he'll do in the next for the rest of the season. So overall, like I said, pretty good race. Um, for the most part, kind of questioning the scraping wall caution that brought out the big catastrophe and then the red flag. But other than that, still a good race. So
That's one of those things. They got to get they got to get more consistent.
yep.
So, but it was an Xfinity race. Cup race. Denny Hamlin, Ty Gibbs on the front row. JGR front row. For surprise, Joey Logano did not have. He's been on the front row the first three races this year. Two of those poles. Um, did not have a good starting qualifying effort. It seemed like a lot of the Fords struggled qualifying. It did have a couple SHR cars up in the top 10, but um, qualifying wasn't really a surprise though. I mean, other than the ones that didn't qualify well, that was more of a shocker than those that did.
Well, um, we're using the short track package with these cars at Phoenix, and if you go back and watch the Clash, Toyota was unbeatable at the Clash between Gibbs and Hamlin both. So it wasn't a shocker seeing them at the front again for Phoenix, and Toyota just showing out there to start off with Phoenix, because like watching the Clash, we saw them do the same thing
Hmm.
start of that. So
Yeah, and there was one point in the clash, Ty Gibbs had like a 2.5 second, almost 3 second lead. So
yep,
having a 2.5 to 3 second lead at that track, that's something to
half
to
the field's under a lap down already,
yeah,
at least.
exactly. So, but once again, we cannot get to lap 10 without a stupid caution.
We didn't even get to
And
lap 7.
right, uh, somebody else you got to feel bad for. Austin Dillon. I don't know. Maybe SVG stole his too. Of course, he hasn't been qualifying well this year,
Mm,
but he has seems like he get caught up in something every week. Had a decent run at Vegas last week, but still, he's he getting caught up in all these wrecks early. I mean, he's not even in the race long enough to get stage points.
yeah, yeah, definitely tough for him. Um, I think there with Austin Dillon. I mean, we've seen him win races before, but it seems he's been one of the ones struggling with this new package, which may be a thing. Of course, we know RCR's equipment has also kind of gone downhill over the past few years. Um,
Don't tell Kyle
it's
Busch that.
well, Kyle also struggled for this race. We'll
That
get
he
to
did.
that later. But um, yeah, just a tough break for both of them really with RCR. Their Xfinity team's really strong, but it seems like their Cup team can't find a grip on things yet. So
It seems like Austin's really struggled with this car. I know he does that one win in 2022 with this car, but that was, you know, one of those luck wins that he kind of lucked into. It wasn't a dominating win, but he's one of those again, kind of like we talked about Josh Williams in the Xfinity series. I don't think this can last all season. They've got to turn it around, and I think they will.
yeah, I would agree, especially knowing how big RCR is, with their history, and then having Kyle Busch as well. You got two good teammates right there, that have proven themselves. So I'm sure they'll turn around eventually. Um, it just may be down the line, quite a few more races, just because of the new packages with other cars and trying to figure out how to fit in working with the other cars. So
Uh, so it was a good. I can't say this was a good race. It's a Cup race at Phoenix. It's usually whoever's out front stays out front. Um, Ty Gibbs was doing good, leading um, when they got back to green and stayed out till 3 to go in the stage, and then Tyler Reddick was able to pass him. Um, but man, Toyota's, we talked about them being strong in qualifying. They were strong in the race. Uh, they had the first four positions at the end of stage one, and then uh, so that is, and Eric Jones was one of those Toyotas that was up front amongst these four. So Tyler Reddick, Ty Gibbs, Denny Hamlin, and Eric Jones. Um, it's good to see Eric Jones taking advantage of the team Legacy Motor Club switching to Toyota,
yeah,
running up front. But did not have such a good pit stop. Jones lost five stops. Uh, Ty Gibbs lost two spots. Carson Hocevar, who qualified in the top 10, ran the top 10, and the entire first stage had to pit twice, which put him way behind, and he was never able to recover
no,
from that. And then Brad Kay got himself in the top 10. So stage one was there wasn't a whole lot of passing going on. Um, Again, typical Phoenix race. There's not a whole lot of passing
yep,
uh, going on, but Toyotas, they weren't to be messed with. That's for sure.
no, they weren't. As we said, they're definitely showing speed with the short track package. So
At that point too, we also had Chase Elliott, William Byron were running. They were running right there behind that Toyota top four. Ryan Blaney, uh, Chase Briscoe were hanging in as far as the Ford camp goes. Um, Chevy has shown a lot of strength this year so far, but all the Chevys seem to struggle, with the exception of Byron and Elliott hanging out there in the top 10. And the Fords seem to struggle too, with the exception of a couple of SHR Fords and Ryan Blaney, up at least up until this point in the race.
Yep.
Um, but the stage two, totally caution free.
Yep. No caution at all. Kind of shocking. Um, but at the same time, not really. Shocking because it's short track. Normally, there's a caution thrown in somewhere between each stage. But not shocking because it's Cup, and these guys know how to handle the car, for the most part. So
Well, and there wasn't a whole lot. I mean, there's not, with not having horsepower to be able to lay the, for the cars to get loose and spin out
right.
like they used to have, seems to keep these cars. You don't see a whole lot of individual spins
No,
that
no,
much, and usually when you do, they're early in the run.
right.
But Toyota dominated. So at the end of stage two, there was only 18 cars on the lead lap. Half the field was a lap down.
Yeah, that's kind of funny.
I mean, that's what happens when you get a long green flag run, though. I mean, that happens at most of the tracks that we go to. If there's a long green flag run, there's usually a lot of cars a lap down.
Right. Yep.
So Christopher Bell had worked his way up towards front. He won stage two, but he had a bad pit stop and restarted 10th.
And let me point out, he didn't even finish in the top 10 in stage one. So
No,
that shows you that his car had speed and he knew what he was doing. They didn't really talk about him much until he got into the top 10 and then got up there. I think the biggest thing was a restart at the beginning of the stage. When everyone spreads out for the dog leg, he definitely gained a lot of position from that. So just wanted to point that out. That he kind of came out of nowhere from stage one into stage two. So
yep, and went out, and then but he had a bad pit stop. Of course, pit stops. Uh, Kyle Busch has had a couple bad pit stops up to this point during the race. Denny's team has been pretty much flawless on pit road up until this point. Um, the 9 and the 24 are holding serve, but again, you had Ty Gibbs that had the pit problems on the first pit stop. You didn't hear from him again until later in the race, and he got up there on pit strategy when they took two tires. But Christopher Bell, he has a couple bad pits, or he has his bad pit stop, but he's able to work his way back up to the front. He had a car. I don't know if it was a setup. I don't know if it's the new Toyota body, but anyway, he had a car that could pass. One of the few cars that could pass.
yeah,
Oh, let's see. We went caution free for 2 laps. With Kyle Busch spun it. Kyle Busch kind of spun it on his own. Um,
which was surprising because it's Kyle Busch. um,
yeah, he, like you said earlier, though, he really struggled this race. Pit road was not their only problem. The car was off.
yeah,
His car was not doing well this race. So um, at least he got some TV time. because without the spin, he wasn't getting no TV time.
Hey, that is true. I don't think I saw him till he spun that at that point. So um,
So, but then we got the restart, and we got to race for 3 laps, 2 laps, 3 laps, something like that. Then
somewhere
we
in
had
there.
John Hunter Nemechek get into Joey Logano, which caused Joey to lose it. Zane Smith, Derek Kraft, Corey LaJoie, Josh Berry were all caught up in that wreck. Um, Joey was running in the back. I mean, these are the types of things that happen when you're used to running in the front and you're running in the back. You get caught
Yep.
up in other people's problems.
Yeah. Well, that's just how it is. He deserves it.
So,
No, I'm just kidding. Kind of.
uh, yeah, as long as he gets out of the car, and walks away, Joey can wreck every race as far as I'm concerned.
um,
Then we get restart on lap 213. We get to race a couple more laps. But my question here, and I got in the notes here, why are we in an in-car listening to Larry Mack? Not saying that Larry McReynolds doesn't have good insight. Why we're coming up to a restart? Why are we in an in-car camera listening to Larry Mack? Why aren't we looking at the field?
yeah, that wasn't to me. That wasn't fun to watch. It wasn't smart move either. On Fox's terms, it made no sense because even with the in car cameras, you barely can see out of the car, which you already know, and the drivers can barely see out of the car, which is why they have the spotters. The camera doesn't see everything; it just sees maybe the tail fin in front of them and the hood, and that's about it. Um, so it made the restart, watching the restart, kind of suck until they finally went to the field and kind of showed it. Now I understand maybe have the whole field at the restart, then maybe going back with some of the big movers, having the in-car camera with them, seeing what they see when as they're weaving through the dog leg or whatever, making moves. But do it, kind of have it where you kind of do, that goofy commercial side by sides, how they do it. You got the live race, and then you kind of have the replay going on of that shot. Don't just have that shot because they may wreck it or something in that, and it makes it kind of pointless at that point.
Uh, Now I will give them credit for the in-car camera that they did um, with the foot cam and the in-car camera that they had on Alex Bowman, I believe it was. But that's because not only were they showing the in-car camera, they were not only showing the foot cam, they were also showing the car on the racetrack.
Exactly.
Um, and again, we talk about Kevin Harvick. We've talked about him. I think every race that we've talked about that he's been in the commentary booth because they went through a lap with the in-car with him detailing what Bowman was doing with his footwork, going into the corner, coming out of the corner, going through the dog leg, and just Kevin's insight in these races has really added. It's almost like when Dale Jr. first got into the booth in 2018, having just gotten out of the car, and he got into the NBC booth, and it was having that insight of somebody that just got out of the car that's able to walk us through that really adds to the viewer experience.
Right.
But we got another two fun laps of racing uh, before Denny Hamlin spins out. And that threw a monkey wrench into the whole race.
It did. Before we get into that, can I just say that before he spun, of course, it was still very nice when he did spin because it's Denny Hamlin. But that race for the lead going on those few laps between the three drivers, that was amazing to watch. And it was still great because
That was
Denny Hamlin's the one that spun.
that was a lot of fun to watch. And uh, we know that we're going to get stuff. We're going to get races like that on the restart at Phoenix because of the dog leg. We're going to get races like that on the restarts at the mile and a half just because of the package that they're running. So, but it is fun to watch those restarts, just kind of see uh, how it's going to all play out. And they were three and four deep, throughout the whole pack. When you go and you watch the aerial coverage, the aerial footage, and that's what we need to be on the restarts. We need to be up in the Goodyear blimp on those restarts, especially at Phoenix, so we can see how deep and how far back they're going, three or four wide, going through that dog leg.
Right.
Uh, and they showed that on a couple of restarts, and you could see how a driver can get low and get 4 or 5 positions. But you can even see some of the drivers, they were going high and they'd go around, two or three lines, four deep. They'd go around on the outside and get 4 or 5 cars, and sometimes even more on those restarts.
Right. Yeah.
But that's about the only excitement we get out of a Phoenix race, because once it all settles down after 2 or 3 laps,
Yep.
you got a choo-choo train going around
Yep.
because
We got
nobody
that.
can pass.
Yeah, the single file train going on.
So, but yeah, Denny, when Denny spun out, that led to a bunch of different pit strategies. There was 5 or 6 that pitted on the previous caution. They stayed out. You had Ty Gibbs that got 2 tires. Um, I think there were several of them that got 2 tires, but I think Ty Gibbs is the only one that it really worked out for. Um, and then a lot of the guys that were in the top 5 at the time, they get trapped back in traffic. Christopher Bell um, restarted in 21st. Denny Hamlin restarted there in that area. Same thing with William Byron, Chase Elliott been running the front up front all day, and now they're stuck back in traffic. Um, a lot of the front runners, Tyler Reddick got stuck back there. Been running up front all day. But then on the restart, Christopher Bell and Ryan Blaney were really the only two that were able to recover to get back in the top 10. Of course, Christopher Bell won, but out of the out of who was running in the top 10 versus who was running in the top 10 at the end of the race, Christopher Bell and Ryan Blaney were really the only ones that were able to really recover and get back up to where they were running before Hamlin's spin.
Right. Yeah. Um, yeah, because of the way Hamlin spin, of course, as we talked about, threw everyone's strategy off, and with Phoenix, the way it is, it pretty much is off of just strategy because of how hard it is to pass. Of course, if we had more horsepower, it'd be easier, but I think we've said that enough. Not really, but
But Christopher Bell on that restart, because they ran from that restart to the end of the race, from lap 220 to lap 312. They had another long run, and Christopher Bell was able to. Of course, he got a lot of them on the restart.
right,
Um, in the first 4 or 5 laps, he got a lot of cars um, that he picked off, and uh, he was he was able to pass. Ryan Blaney was able to pass. Seemed like everybody else struggled. Byron fell back to like 24th, and he was only able to get back up to like 17th, 18th. Um, Denny Hamlin was only able to get back up to 11th, and he got 11th, like basically coming to the line
Yep.
from Noah Gragson. Ryan Blaney shows again. Ryan has been a top five car for I think the last four Phoenix races. Of course, he won the championship, finishing second there last year. So um, the Ford struggled, but Ryan Blaney was able to get back in the top five. Chase Briscoe was able to get a top 10. Noah Gragson again, he finished 12th. Was running 11th coming to the line, but Hamlin was able to get him. Um, so Noah has been impressive this year. What do you think? I think Noah's been impressive.
Noah has been impressive. Right now, I hate to see it, but he's been kind of the Stuart Haas carrier with his finishes. Of course, Chase Briscoe has been doing well. He was, as we've seen, he did well at Atlanta and Vegas until he was taken out. Um, Here he finished top 10 here at Phoenix, which was good. But Gregson, it seems like Gregson's the one that's pushing to get this, to give the team the confident boost they need to really push for what the team is aiming for, as seeing a lot of social media from um, the team and Tony Stewart himself talking highly of the team, saying they're ready, they're coming in hot. Gregson has been the one to prove that they're doing so. So hopefully this is boosting all the other teams to push forward some more. Um, but we'll just have to wait and see.
I think Noah needed the confidence boost too after what happened to him last year and losing his ride, being suspended for so long out of the car. I think he needed a good start to the season.
I agree. Yeah, definitely losing his ride halfway through the season last year, and then signing with Stuart Haas. Of course, that probably was a good confidence boost for him right out the bat. As we knew, we talked about that being the rumor, and then it coming true. But I would agree, the confidence boost is needed for him, and he's showing that he's he's able to wheel this car, this top contending car, to where it needs to be. So I'm excited to
And
see
if
what
he,
he can do for the rest of the season.
oh yeah, because if he hadn't had that 35-point penalty from Atlanta, he would be 15th in points. So that penalty did hurt him, but I don't think. Obviously, it didn't hurt his confidence any. Um, and I think he might surprise us and pull off a win this year, which would be good to see.
Agreed. Oh,
Now we also learned something. I think Martin Truex showed us something because he pitted. He did not pit when everybody else pitted. He started out in the lead. He pitted with 41 laps to go, and he came back to finish seventh. Okay, his tires were 50 laps newer than everybody else's, but maybe if he would have pitted another 10 laps sooner and pitted with like 51 to go, I wonder if maybe he could have raced his way into the top five, maybe even caught up to Christopher Bell, and been able to give him a run for his money.
I, I would I would say yes, definitely. Just because I mean he already bounced back to the top 10 to seventh, pretty much right outside top five almost. So if he had another 10, 15 laps he could have ran, he probably would have caught up to, um, top five definitely, and probably would have came close to catching Bell if he hadn't. So, but that again shows Toyota has with this short track package, they have the speed um, at these short tracks, even with this newer body style that they're using. So
But and it'll be interesting to see when we get back here for the championship race, if they have a long run like this at the end of at the end of that race. We may see some of this pit strategy like this. Somebody who's out, you know, out to lunch or whatever. If they have a caution with 100 laps to go, they may stay out and lead for a while and then pit and have faster, better tires and maybe be able to drive their way up and win a championship. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. um, rumor has it, just from listening to Jordan Bianchi, Jeff Gluck, and the Teardown, Phoenix may not be the championship race in 2025. There is rumors in the garage that it may go be maybe going back to Homestead, and if that is the case, this race just showed us why that would happen, because this was not the most exciting race to watch.
I would agree because if it had it, the few moments where it was pretty exciting to watch, but for the most part, if this was a championship race, I would be disappointed. Um, I
Yeah,
think
absolutely.
Phoenix has yet to make it up to the hype that NASCAR gave it when for the championship race. Um, Granted, I started watching NASCAR pretty much when the schedule changed to Phoenix, so I haven't really experienced the Homestead finish. But seeing some older races, it seems like it needs to go back to Homestead, um, because Homestead just seems to be a lot more exciting when it comes to the championship race.
Yeah, I think
So
the only two Homestead races you watched was 2014 when Harvick won, and then you watched with me again in 2017 when Martin Truex won the championship. So
yep, those
uh,
were I would I would agree. I think those are the only two I've watched, which were both really really exciting. Of course, both of them were drivers
our
I
driver.
like. So, but it still made it exciting, just
But
because.
the homes and the Homestead races since then that haven't been championship races have been good races. I mean, they haven't been uh, boring. There's still a lot of long green flag runs at Homestead, but Homestead is one of those where a faster car can catch and pass a car that's 2 or 3 miles an hour slower. Uh, over time. So, but man, I hope that's what happens. Granted, I was not a Homestead fan uh, for the first whatever 10 years that they ran it there. But 2012 when Brad won, or well, actually 2011 when Tony Stewart won, when him and Carl Edwards tied for the championship. Uh, that Homestead race was a really, really good race. The 2012 one where Brad Keselowski won was a really, really good race. And 2013, 14, and 15. Even though 13 and 15, and even 16, there were drivers that I wasn't a big fan of that won. They were still good races. They weren't Phoenix races. They were enjoyable to watch from beginning to end. So anyway, eh, I think it was Jamie McMurray a couple years ago that said there hasn't been a good Phoenix race since 1989. Um,
That was a while ago.
I don't even know. That was a long time ago, and I believe uh, can't remember if that was the first year or the second year that Phoenix was on the schedule. I think that was maybe the first year that Phoenix was on the schedule and Alan Kwiecki won that race. Um, so that was when I was first really starting to um, get old enough to understand NASCAR racing. So that's been a while.
Yeah.
So fantasy, how'd you do in fantasy? You're still leading our league.
Well, before I get
Uh,
to me, let me go to Trey real quick.
but
And
I'm catching you.
you are catching me. Trey had Denny Hamlin, William Byron, Ryan Blaney, Kyle Larson, and Kyle Busch. And then he had Christopher Bell in the garage. Um, for him, it would have been smart to switch Bell and Busch. Um,
Yeah.
Otherwise, he probably
Does
would have
he
had.
does he not get on during the race and take his garage driver out or?
Probably not. This was the first race he was able to watch live. He had no way to actually watch it besides the NASCAR app, and then it's still not really the best to watch on the app.
Yeah.
He texted me and told me during the race, was like, I caved in and got YouTube TV so I can watch the race. I was like, hey man, at least you're watching it, better than it was before. Um, so
Yep.
so let me pull mine up real quick. Um, if it'll load. Come on now. Man, I pay for Wi-Fi for a reason. Can you work at least? So I had in mind Chase Elliott, Tyler Reddick, Ty Gibbs, Noah Gragson, Ross Chastain, and then I had Carson Hocevar in my garage. So and then for the featured matchups, I had Chastain versus Blaney. Talk about a close one. um, as the that was funny because you had picked, for our personal 1v1 fantasy, you picked Blaney, I picked Chastain. Um, Kind of bit me in the butt, but Hamlin versus Elliott, I picked Elliott. Um, I didn't expect it. Kind of sucked because Hamlin bounced back after his spin still. Um, Kyle Busch versus Christopher Bell. This one really bit me in the butt because I picked Kyle Busch, not thinking Christopher Bell would win the race. He was quiet, as I said, till stage. He came into stage two to win. And then I had Ty Gibbs against Alex Bowman. I picked Gibbs, of course, so that did me well. So I only won one of them. The feature matchup. So that was my fantasy.
Well, on my lineup, I had Chastain, Gregson, Truex, Bush, and Gibbs, which that would have been a pretty good lineup without Kyle Busch in there because I had Ryan Blaney in the garage. Unfortunately, I was not able to watch the race live. I was about 150 laps behind because I had a visitation that I had to go to, so I was not able to switch Blaney and Bush. I wish I would have. I may give you my password so you can go and do that in case I'm not
I
able to
know.
watch live again
Now wait a
because
minute. That'd be helping you too much.
that would have really set me up good because that would have put all five of my drivers in the top 12.
Yep.
Let's see, my head to head I had. Now I know I picked Blaney, but if you remember in the fall, Chastain beat Blaney. Chastain won the race. Blaney finished second. So I picked Chastain because I figured he would run. I figured he would win again. So I had in the head to head, I picked Ross over Blaney, so that didn't help. I did have Hamlin over Chase. I did pick Kyle Busch over Christopher Bell. Again, I knew Bell would have a strong run, but I thought Busch would be better. Um, in the end, I had Ty Gibbs over Alex Bowman. If Alex Bowman's in these things, it's going to be hard for me to pick him
Um,
just over the past few years because he hasn't won a race since um what was it, California 2 years ago in
maybe
22.
I think
So
so.
Alex Bowman has not won a race in a long time. So good luck.
Um, I get to talking about kind of bouncing off of what we talked about last week with Hendrick. But real quick, so Phoenix overall, um, I came in first with 186. Trey came very close with 182. If he had swapped Blaney, not Blaney, but Bell from the garage, he would have beat me because he'll have the race winner. And then you came in third with 174. So overall, I'm in first, 715. I still have almost a 70-point lead over you in second at 658. So
We'll see
uh,
if I'd have been able to move Blaney and put Blaney in and take Bush out. I probably would have won this week.
most likely. But hey, it's part of it. But anyways, I want to go. I want to go back to because we were talking about Alex Bowman. If y'all have watched the previous week going over Las Vegas, we were talking about Hendrick, and equipment being handed out, special specialty. Larson and Byron getting the better equipment over Elliott and Byron. Not excuse me, Elliott and Bowman. Too many B's. Um, uh, this week proved exactly what I was saying. No, because there for a little while, Elliott, Elliott qualified third. He was running in the top 10 until the pit strategies came down with Hamlin's spin. Um, and same with Bowman. Bowman had found his way. I think I saw him in the top 10. If not, he was 11th at least. So he was doing decently. Um, so that just goes to show you that it's still all the same equipment. I know they touched during the race about Elliott talking to Alan Gustafson, his crew chief. Alan was saying that Elliott has just lost his confidence in himself um, because of the struggles he went through last year with breaking his leg early in the season, and then the penalty, and then just never really recovering, um, mentally from that. But as they talked about, and we saw, of course, again until Pitt came in, that he was gaining that back. So um, which
And
may be the go ahead.
there was one point in time in stage one where Chase Elliott and William Byron in fifth and sixth were running faster than the four Toyotas in front of them. They were actually catching them. They were just running. They just were running out of time there towards the end. But you're right. I mean, Chase Elliott was top five all day until Denny Hamlin spun, and it shook up the pit strategy. Same thing with William Byron. I mean, they were both up there. The one that seemed to struggle at Phoenix this week, of course, Bowman. You say he was just running just outside the top 10, but Kyle Larson seemed to be struggling. Uh, but he was the only one that was able to finish in the top 15 with the pit strategy. Um, so it seemed, but it seemed again, it seemed like Chevy's overall, with the exception of Elliott and Byron, really struggled this race. And it was only the pit strategy that shook everything up.
Right. Um, but knowing confidence can be a big factor with when it comes to this racing. So as I was talking about Elliott getting back to that, as he, we saw, I think that may be the thing with Bowman, with having his back issues, because I know, back issues, not comfortable at all trying to recover from, and trying to get comfort back into driving the car. That may be his biggest issue, is he's just not confident enough to being, having that comfort um, which may be his problem as well. So just
But
wanted
yeah,
to
and we
touch on that.
really, yeah, that's a good point. The other thing we didn't talk about, we didn't talk about the top 10. Top 10 and finishers of this race were most of these guys were not running in the top 10 until the shakeup. Some of them were. Yeah, I'm gonna start from the bottom and work my way up. Tyler Reddick, he was running up front. He was able to barely recover to get a top 10 because of the pit strategy. Chase Briscoe, top 5 or top 10. Michael McDowell with another good run. Chase, the pit strategy really helped Michael McDowell out. It didn't help Noah Gragson out. He was running top 10 until that, but he was able to at least hold serve and finish 12th. Truex came back. We talked about Truex coming back, finished 7th. Ross Chastain, Ryan Blaney. Ty Gibbs was able to get back up there with pit strategy with a 2 tire stop. But the impressive 2 out of this top 10 is Chris Buescher and Brad Keselowski because they were nowhere to be found until the pit stop strategy shakeup. Uh, they were they were out to lunch, and I guess they came back from lunch during Denny Hamlin's spin.
um, yeah, I would agree because they finished in the top 10 um, at the end of stage two, but after that they kind of disappeared and fell off again until Hamlin spin, and then they bounced back, and then they raced their way because I think they were more toward the back of the top 10. I think they were seventh, eighth, ninth, somewhere in there, and they raced their way up to second and fourth. Very impressive. Especially coming from RFK, because it seemed like they've been having some bad luck at the beginning of the season. Um, but I'm telling you, Brad K is going to get his first win with this team. Sometime this season. I see it. I can. Chris Buescher, I believe, will get another win or two this season. Um, they showed it. They showed that they can contend. Even after so much struggling at the beginning of this. So, and I want to point out. I know we were going over the top 10, but I want to point out kind of top 15 here. Carson Hocevar, even after his pit struggles, um, being inspired, he came back to a top 15 finish, finishing in 15th. Um, I wanted to touch on that because, like I've said, I've met Carson, really cool guy, super young. He's got talent. He's got potential of you know taking Spire, I would say, even to quite a good rookie season.
Well, he's leading the rookie of the year points right now over Josh Berry and his teammate Zane Smith. Zane is struggling, but Carson has he's putting it together. Of course, he did get to run a few races last year, but he's putting it together, and I think he was overlooked. Is rookie coming in with his rookie of the year battle with Josh Berry coming up, but he's proving that he very well could win it. He could win the rookie of the year. It wouldn't surprise me to see him slip in maybe and win a race. Maybe I don't see him. I don't see him making the playoffs without winning a race. I don't think he's going to be able to point himself in there. Uh, but if he wins a race, obviously he'll be in the playoffs. So it is a possibility. Because Josh is struggling. Zane Smith, like I mentioned, is he's struggling hard.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see how that works out.
Yeah, I would
So
agree.
anyway, any other thoughts on the Cup race?
No, no more thoughts on that. I just typical Phoenix race. But hopefully, if the rumor around the yeah rumor around the garage is true, and we go back to Homestead next year, um, it'll definitely be a big boost to fans' excitement. So
Now, I have one last thought on this, and this is more on the TV side. Uh, I You probably did not watch the IndyCar race.
I did
I
not.
watched. I sat down and I watched the IndyCar race today. The only time that they had full screen commercials was during a caution. If there was green flag racing on the track, they were they would go to commercial. They were side by side commercials, and the really cool part is the commercial box was not much bigger than the racing box. Uh, so, and this is NBC that we're talking about. So NASCAR and Fox and even NASCAR on NBC can learn something here. If there's green flag racing on the track, side by side commercials, it can be done. How do we know it can be done? I watched a 100 lap road course, street course race, IndyCar race that had side by side commercials when there was green flag racing. I was able to watch every green flag lap of the IndyCar race because of the side by side commercials.
That definitely shows something. Um, so
Was it done? Uh, now they may not be able to do it for like a Rolex 24-hour race, like the Rolex 24 at Daytona or the 12-hour race at Sebring or something like that. But for a Cup race, for an Xfinity race, for an IndyCar race, there's no excuse for it. We've seen that it can be done. Let's do it.
I agree. I agree.
So, all right, for our picks, Phoenix picks. There was no truck race. For the Xfinity race, you picked Ryan Sieg. He finished 12th. I picked William Byron, who got caught up in a wreck. Finished 23rd. Ryan Sieg was top 10 pretty much all day long. Uh, William Byron was working his way up there. He didn't qualify all that well. He was working his way up there. He got caught up in that crap, and I'm gonna call it crap because it happened because of a caution that shouldn't have been called in the first place. It would have been interesting to see how they would have raced that out had William not been caught up in that. And then the Cup race, you picked Chastain. I picked Blaney. They finished 5th and 6th, respectively. So I beat you there. So we basically broke out, since there was only 2 series, we broke out even this week. Yeah, so the score is you're still up by 2 races. Another interesting thing to note um, is there was only 2 races, but Toyota swept the weekend. So they put Chevy's dominance to a halt.
Oh, they did, didn't they? That is true.
Yep. So going to Bristol this week. I sent you the lineups. No Xfinity race at Bristol. Uh, I don't know why. This this is dumb. We should be racing. Xfinity should be racing at Bristol this week. But they're not. So let's go. Let's see here. Let's look at the truck lineup. We have Kyle Busch back in the 7 truck. And I believe the only other is going to be Zane Smith in the 91 uh, McAnally Hilgerman truck. So we got a couple Cup drivers dipping down. Who you got?
This is tough because it's It's Bristol. Um, well, I think I'm gonna pick that young talented dude, Kyle Busch. Um, I,
Oh, how did I know you were going to do that?
um, I why not? We know he can race these trucks. We've seen him win in these trucks. I just if he wasn't going to be running, I would go with Caruth, but since he is, I'm gonna go with Bush. I feel like Bush will have the better finish over his teammate. So I pick Kyle Busch for Bristol for the trucks.
All right. Well, I'm going to go with Tyler Ankrum. Uh, he's having a really good year.
Mm,
He's running up front. He's with a new team with McAnally, Hilgerman Racing. He's teammates with Zane Smith, teammates with Kristen Eckes. Um, he's got Mark Hillman as a crew chief. I'm gonna go with Tyler Ankrum here. He has won a race. It's been a few years, but he has won a race. So I'm gonna go with Tyler.
good pick, good pick. He may not have won a race in a little while, but he's one of those that has already proven himself. So I would say, of course, he has been passed around as we've talked about as well. But I would say that's a pretty good pick.
All right. We're not, yay, running Bristol Dirt this year. Yay.
Thank you.
It's a fun experiment. One of those that if we're going to race dirt, let's go to Eldora. Let's go to Knoxville. Let's go to a dirt track, a track that is designed to be a dirt track, a short. I know, Bristol's a short track, but um, let's run. If it's you're going to run a quarter mile for the Clash, or at least they have been. Rumor has it they're not going to be there next year, but they've got a quarter mile. Let's run a quarter mile dirt track. Come on, if we can do it with the trucks, has proven that it'll work. I want them to take the trucks back to Eldora anyway. I want them to take Xfinity to Eldora. I want to see them take Cup to Eldora. So let's do a dirt track. So we're not racing at Bristol Dirt this year. Thank you, Lord. Um, but we are racing at Bristol.
Yes, we are.
So who you got?
Well,
And
I'm
if you
go.
pick who I'm gonna pick, I'm gonna be mad.
I don't think I'm picking who you're gonna pick. Because I'm kind of going on a limb here. Um, it worked with me with trucks in Vegas. So I probably won't work for me here at Bristol, but I'm gonna pick a Spire guy. That should tell you who I'm picking, obviously. As I talk highly of him, Carson Hocevar. We're short track. Spire always shows strength at short tracks, especially Bristol. We've seen Corey LaJoie run up front in Bristol multiple times until he accidentally goofs up and wrecks him in half the field. But I think Carson will be able to do pretty well here at Bristol, especially after seeing him struggle with pit stops at Phoenix and then race his way back up to the top 15. So that's my pick.
All right. Well, I'm going to go with last year's fall Bristol winner, Chris Buescher. Um, he found something at Bristol last fall, and I'm going to stick with him. Uh, if he doesn't win and Brad's able to pull it off, I'm not going to be I'm not going to be too upset. But I got to go with Chris Buescher. The run that they had at Phoenix last week. Uh, like I said, he won. He won there in the fall last year. I'm gonna stick with Buescher. It's going to be interesting. They are not running the new short track package at Bristol this weekend.
Hmm.
If I had one of those cartoon big old question mark things pop up over my head, that would be what we would pop up. Because why are you not running a short track package at the short track?
That's a good question because I really don't know.
I don't know. It's almost like they want to run the short track package at the flat short tracks like Phoenix. Phoenix is a mile long. Phoenix is not a short track. Phoenix needs horsepower, tire wear, and no dog leg. Um, but they're going to run it at Martinsville. They're going to run it at Richmond. Richmond's going to be like a Phoenix. Not going to be a whole lot of passing going on. It's going to be all pit strategy. So I guess Martinsville will get to see whether the short track package is a success or not. So, but anyway, let's see. We got two more races coming up. Then we got Coda the next weekend. So, gonna be interesting. Interesting to see how all this plays out.
I would agree.
Oh, excuse me. I'm yawning now. It's late, y'all. For me, anyway.
It's getting there for me. um, well, that's all I've got for this episode. So,
Yep.
you got anything else?
No, I think I pretty much mentioned it. My big thing was, like I mentioned, with the IndyCar race, side by side commercials. Let's do it.
I would agree. Let's do it. We'll no longer miss any of the action at all. So, um, short week. Short week. I say short week. Only two races, not as much to cover. Next week will probably be the same, which is probably nice for y'all, as I'm sure you're all tired of 2.5 hour long episodes. So um, definitely nicer to have a shorter episode. I'll actually be able to eat and go to bed at a decent hour.
And
So
next week we may have more cautions to talk about, though.
that is true, especially being Bristol. So with further ado, I shall give it to you. Hey, that rhymed. To do our non-sponsored shout outs.
All right. Well, if you're not listening to these podcasts, listen to them. If you're not following these guys on Twitter that do these podcasts, follow them on Twitter. I've got the Scene Vault podcast with Rick Houston and Steve Wade. Wonderful historians of the sport. Door Bumper Clear, TJ Majors, Brett Griffin, Freddie Kraft. I'm about halfway through uh, this week's episode. Hey, speaking of DBC, Freddie Kraft just like my tweet where I told Denny Hamlin that I do listen to Actions Detrimental, but DVC wins every time when it comes to podcasts. So Freddie liked my tweet where I responded to Denny Hamlin. I said, "Sorry, Denny, DVC wins every time." So, but door bumper clear, good timing, Freddie. Door bumper clear with TJ Majors, Brett Griffin, and Freddie Kraft. I'm about halfway through the show this week, so Dale Jr. Download with Dale Jr. on Tuesdays. They have Dirty Air. On Wednesdays, they have their uh, interviews. Last week was really interesting. If you haven't got to listen to it, it was with Kelly Earnhardt Miller, Dale Jr.'s sister, doing the business of racing. They do those every once in a while. They're really, really interesting to listen to because you get to hear a lot of the business ins and outs of motorsports with Kelly. So Actions Detrimental with Denny Hamlin. Again, they will always come in second to DVC. Because the Teardown with Jeff Gluck and Jordan Bianchi. Really good show this week. Happy Hour with Kevin Harvick on Tuesdays, where they give a race recap. On Thursdays, where there's an interview with Kevin. Stacking Pennies with Corey LaJoie. Again, this is one you've listened to. I've not been able to listen to it. I'm hoping maybe this week I'll be able to. I got a little extra work time this week due to taking off today to go to a funeral. Um, so maybe I can sneak that one in this week. Follow Bob Pockrass if you want to know what's going on. If you want to know about the weather. If you want to know whether the track has lights. If you want to know the package that they're using. If you want to know the tire compound that they're using, follow Bob. Follow Trey Ryan if you want some good stats. He's been throwing them out there again this week. He's already started. He's already starting to talk a little bit about Indy 500, Coca-Cola 600 double that's coming up at the end of May. Matt Weaver, I have not mentioned him before, but man, Matt covers motorsports. He's not just a lot of these other guys just cover NASCAR races. Matt covers everything. He covers dirt track racing. He covers the World of Outlaws. He covers the Cars Tour. He covers. Uh, if you want motorsports, follow Matt Weaver. Matt Weaver covers motorsports. I mean, he is on it. And he interacts a lot with the fans. I mean, he'll answer your questions. He'll go back and forth. Him and I went back and forth a little bit on Twitter last night about the horsepower, and I was like, okay, so what's the deal here? Why are we not doing this horsepower thing? And all Matt would say was, ask Honda, and that was all he had to say. I was like, I got you now, because we've talked about the rumors of Honda wanting to come into the sport, and they even talked about it today on Actions Detrimental with Denny. Apparently Honda wants 650 horsepower. They don't want any more. They don't want any less. So NASCAR is not going to talk horsepower because of Honda. Well, you know what? NASCAR has always told the manufacturers in the past, you will race what we tell you to race. And I say we go back to that. If Honda doesn't want 650 and NASCAR wants 900, 950, 1,000, 1,200, I mean, the more horsepower, the harder these cars are to drive. That's what I'm here for. Um, if Honda don't want to buy into that, let's find somebody that will. Um, and then of course, Jayski, you want your stats. All of the stats that we use when it comes to finishing order is it comes from Jayski. So when it comes to lineups for next next week's races, I get those from Jayski. So follow them on Twitter. You can go to jayski.com and you can find historical stats that go way back. I don't even know how far back they go. They may go back to like whatever stats exist maybe on Jayski. I don't even know. And then I'm wearing their hat. Circle B Diecast. Man, if you want a diecast, Circle B Diecast is your solution. If you want an elite diecast, first class diecast, Circle B does all of their shipping for them. So again, if there is a problem, if there is an issue, if you get a diecast that has a broken fin or a broken side window or a broken spoiler or whatever, a steering wheel that's bouncing around inside the car,
Oops.
and you bought from yeah, oops, and you bought your diecast from Circle B Diecast, give them an email, give them a phone call. They'll fix it for you. They'll send you an email with the return label. You put that return label on the box. You tape the box up. You ship it back. They'll put a new car in and they'll ship it to you. And that return shipping, both directions, they take care of that. They'll take care of you if you have an order and you do like me and sometimes you forget that you've already ordered something and you order it again. and they send you the invoice and say, "Hey, this is coming in next week. Make sure your payment information and shipping information is up to date." And you look at there and you're like, "Wait a second, I don't need three of those. I only need one of those, or I only need two of those." And you shoot them an email, they fix you right up. So for all of your non-exclusive diecast needs, check them out.
Yeah, definitely check out everyone that said, everyone with a podcast, everyone on Twitter, and then Circle B, of course. Um, as you've said,
Non-sponsored, but we can move you down to the sponsored list if you want to.
we can indeed. We would love for you to sponsor us. We could even help you promote some of your diecast. um, yeah, everyone you just said, all the podcasts are wonderful. Very um, informative when listening to them. Everyone on Twitter very good to you know keep in touch with for everything you want to know with what's going on. So um, I do want to shout out as you shout out Freddie Kraft because you're always talking to him on Twitter. um, Same with Matt Weaver. Uh, Steam Volt Podcast has been showing support, liking when we tweet that our episode is up. I don't know if they watch us, but it'd be really cool if they did, because we do talk about them, um, give them a shout out. So kind of cool how they interact. They always like the hey, the new video is up tweet that you tweet. So kind of cool to see that. So don't think we're just saying these people and then they don't care because most of them see that we're talking about them. I'm pretty sure just about everyone appreciates that. So, anyways, for our sponsored shout outs, we've got Swift Grips, analog grips for your controllers, PS5, PS4, Xbox, um, and Nintendo Switch. For all you sweaty gamers out there, helps you keep from slipping off the analogs and, nice little grips. Um, I should probably order some because I don't have any, and they sponsor me. I feel bad. um, and then of course,
Might be a good idea.
yeah, of course you got the very delicious Dubby Energy Blend, Jitterless Energy Blend. They also have the hydration mix. Very very good. Keeps you energetic. Super good. You can use code SterlingRider for 10% off on Swift Grips or Dubby, of course. Dubby also has merch, shakers, stickers. Some goober. They're working on coming out with canned energy drinks. Something got leaked today, and I retweeted it on Twitter, and then the tweet was taken down and said, "If you saw that, no, you didn't." And I was like, "Okay, well, whatever." Kind of excited to see where their canned energy drinks process is going to come into play soon. So excited for that. And then of course got Rankest Rope Ranchwear, bringing rodeo and retro western wear into place. I like their stuff. It's super comfy, pretty cool designs. Turn and burn, livestock, boot stitch hoodies, beanies, hats, some button ups, some pretty cool clothing from them. You can use code SilverDuke15 for 15% off with them as well. So thank you to all of our sponsors. Thank you to all the non-sponsored guys we shout out as well. You're very encouraging when we come to do this stuff. Um, so
Hey,
if
just just got another like from Freddie Kraft. I mentioned him. I said, "Good timing, Freddie Kraft. We were recording our NASCAR YouTube show. Would you like this?" And I was giving a shout out to DBC. So he liked that tweet too. So
no,
anyway, yeah, good timing, man. Man, we appreciate these guys and gals that work within the industry. Um, you know, they don't have to cover, especially these social media guys. they don't have to cover a lot of stuff on social media. Their job is to be a NASCAR reporter in the garage. Their job is to write stories for, like Jeff and Jordan. They write stories for the Athletic. Bob Pockrass works for Fox Sports. Matt Weaver has his own publication. I mean, they could save everything that they do. They could save it, put it behind a paywall, and we have to pay for every bit of content that we get from them. But they give it to us. They give it to us for free. Dale Jr. spends a lot of money doing his podcasts with Dirty Mo Media. So we appreciate because a lot of the content that we're able to talk about, we get straight from these guys. We get content that we talk about straight out of the mouth of Denny Hamlin, who's in the seat of the race car, from Kevin Harvick, who's been in the seat of the race car, from people like Jeff and Jordan and um, Bob and Brent and TJ and Freddie that are at the racetrack. They're involved with race teams. Matt Ryan's uh, or Matt Weaver, I'm sorry, is at the racetrack. Corey LaJoie's in the race car. We get to hear this stuff straight out of their mouth, and then we just are able to use it on our show. So we appreciate um, the content that they put out there. If I'm not able to watch a race live, I can follow along. I pretty much know what's going on because of what these guys put on Twitter. If we're at commercial, I am watching live. If we're at commercial and the caution comes out, I know that the caution came out. Why? Because Bob Pockrass or Jeff Gluck or Jordan Bianchi or Matt Weaver or all of them are on Twitter saying caution's out.
Yep.
Um, so a lot of times I'm able to get excited because one of the drivers I don't like has wrecked, or I'm able to get mad before we come back because one of the drivers that I like is caught up in the caution. So yeah, we thank them a lot, but we also thank our paid sponsors as well for following up what we've did. I know SterlingRider has been able to form relationships with these guys. Um, I haven't gotten the Swift grips. I haven't gotten the ranch wear. But man, I drink the snot out of that Dubby. It worked. Oh, and another thing, if you order something, don't be like this guy that's on this other screen and send it to your parents' address instead of your address, because now I just have to put it in a box and ship it to you.
Yeah, well, at least I can pay for that. Uh, Let me
I
explain though.
got
The reason that happened was because okay, I bought some to send to them, so I just had it directly shipped to the house from the warehouse that Dubby has. Okay, I didn't realize when I went to make another order for their new release. Go check it out, Mark Mayhem Cherry Limeade flavor, which
I
is
would
at
have
their
it, but
house
it's in the
now.
kitchen.
It's at their house right now. I'm supposed to have it here, but um, I ordered it because new release, and it was Mark Mayhem off of our Mark Clan Gaming team that we have joined in with, that I have become a part of as well. I didn't realize that it still had that address in the profile. Um, I forget that you have to go and change the address to your other saved address because on the Dubby app it doesn't have a default address. Kind of like it's this address unless changed otherwise. It's just whatever your recent address is that you use. So I didn't realize that. That's my fault. But it went to them. It was supposed to come to me, but I'm gonna get it at the end of the day anyway, so it's okay. But yeah, make sure your
You
address is right.
you've almost done that on our Amazon account too. So uh, having having multiple addresses on one account, you've got to make sure that the right one is checked so that the product that you're ordering goes to the right address. So,
Yep.
funny story there. Good stuff. Uh, yeah, we got Bristol coming up. It's not Bristol Dirt. I'm looking forward to it. I have always loved Bristol. This car on Bristol, not so much. But again, I Bristol has always been one of my favorite tracks. I would like to see them go back to either asphalt Bristol, which was a lot of fun to watch back in the '90s, early '90s, or to the old concrete configuration, man, where the bottom lane was the end all be all. You had to bump somebody out of the way. We saw a lot of great finishes, some crazy wrecks, some unnecessary wrecks coming to the finish line at the old Bristol. Uh, if they have both lines working with the bottom lane and the top lane, and you can pass on the bottom or you can pass on the top, uh, that makes for an exciting race. Um, but I'm looking forward to seeing what Bristol has to offer. Um, we're gonna have to record. You said we're gonna have to record that night because you got to get up and get on an airplane the next morning. So,
Well,
um,
the plan is just to take my laptop with me, so but should be able to record when we normally record. Just depends.
well, we should be able to record that Sunday night too, because that's spring break for us.
Ah, nice. Um,
So we don't have anything going on that next day, so I should be able to record Sunday night. So man, y'all might get this podcast a day or two early.
Possibly. It's normally up around Wednesday if my internet's not being a butt. Normally up around Wednesday morning, um, noonish for your time, really. But that's just my internet. So not much I can do there,
All
but I
right,
try. So
y'all have a good week. Y'all have a good Bristol, and we will see you after Bristol.
yep. So that's it for Phoenix. So till next time with Bristol. So with a further ado, peace out. Right on. God bless.